tested. And we already know that they do drugs. Half of them are alcoholics, and they got guns in their hands. For what reason? Beg your pardon?
And the rest of them beat their wives.
Huh. So true. But nobody gets charged, right? Because anything they do, we already know. SIU, they did nothing wrong.
See, a son, one of the faith that the dark past has taught us. See, a son, one of the hope that the present has taught us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun. Let us march on till victory.
That's right.
Is won. Told me the road we trod, we didn't chase me, Lord. Felt in the day that home alone had done. Yet with a steady hand of wind, unto the place which our family son. And we have come all the way that with tears has been watered. And we have
important that Laura Manson comes with us, and she gets to tell her story about her brother also. There are so many murders that are happening in British Columbia of Indigenous people, and we don't get to hear about it a lot. They're really, really quick to sweep it under the rug, right? And when they killed my son in 2021, they put out a really ugly press statement, a press release. And I fought back right away, and I came out with mine. And then they came out with another one. And I came out with another one. And they came out with another. They came out with their third press release in 2 days. 3 press releases in 2 days to try to cover up what they had done. And every month, on the 8th of the month, for 2 years, I was out in the streets, putting up posters, putting up banners, had them all over the city, all over the province, actually. Take a little bit of a side.
In that year, in Winnipeg alone, there was 3 shootings of 3 Indigenous people within 12 hours. Within 12 hours. And the youngest one in that group was 16 years old. You know, like, how do you know, this cop in the report said that he had looked through the hole and he had seen a threat. This little girl was a threat to him. If you see a little child as a threat, you have no business wearing a badge or a gun. None.
Because Peel Police became judge, jury, and executioner for my child. My son was the most beautiful thing. I never knew what love was until I had Jamal. And I never knew what pain was until I lost him. And so on January 7th, my son went to pick up his kids from school, and apparently the Peel Police had him under surveillance because I was his surety, and at the time, my husband was also his surety. So Jamal was only allowed to leave home because he had conditions, to go to school, to go to work, medical, lawyer, and so on. In any case, he's been under surveillance because they assumed he was a drug dealer, right? And with that assumption, on January 7th, they came to get my son, and they saw him outside, and they didn't say anything to him. They waited until it was dark. And so what happened was, I got in, Jamal and I were catching up on the day, and he said, "Mom, I'm not feeling well. I'm gonna go take a shower and play some video games." And I'm like, okay. I had a gift card from work, a McDonald's card. He loved McDonald's, so he took it. I'm like, so I gave it to him, and he's like, okay, thank you, mommy. I'll take the kids for breakfast when I'm taking them to school. And obviously, that never happened because his dad called him to go to the hospital. Jamal's grandfather died after Jamal. He was on his dying bed. His dad called him to come go to the hospital. Jamal never said goodbye to me. Our last conversation was in that kitchen because he left. I was online working. I didn't know my son left because every time my children, I have 2 boys, well, and every time they left the home, it was, "Mommy, love you, and be safe." I always tell them that. I never got to say that to Jamal because he left. And I got a phone call from my husband asking me, why is our complex surrounded by police? And I said, oh crap, we have black boys. If my complex is surrounded, I gotta check out my kids. I ran upstairs and my younger son, Brian Jr., was playing video games. And I'm like, where's your brother? He said, he's in the basement, Mom. I ran to the basement, he wasn't there. So I knew it was my child because I kept calling him and his cell phone, he kept going to the machine. I ran outside and the place was literally surrounded by emergency vehicles. And I saw a vehicle that's crashed into a wall and I recognized the vehicle. And so I wasn't allowed to go over, but I asked an officer to tell me, give me the plate and tell me if that's not an Acura. And he came back and he said it is a black Acura. And long story short, my son was shot. The officer claimed that, so they killed my son over a breach of bail because there was no drugs. In the SIU's report, they're like, when they realized he wasn't a drug dealer, they decided to get him for a breach of bail because they said a week prior he was seen leaving the home to go to his girlfriend's house. Now I can tell you, a breach of bail, the aggression they came with from my child. But what I will never accept is the fact that they said my son tried to run them. They approached my son in the dark. They watched my son walk out of the house with infrared on him, watched him walk to this vehicle, sat in the vehicle, and then they ambushed him, basically, undercover cops with guns drawn. And then at the end of the day, he said one of the officers felt his life was in danger. And he fired directly at my son, he said, but my son is shot in the back of his head. And the SIU cleared those officers. And there is so many missing information from that report. Like behind my son, behind the driver, there's a bullet graze in the back door, passenger door. That's the bullet that hit my son in the back of his head. So he was shot from behind, and I will never stop fighting for his justice. Never. And I'm asking each and every one of you to please support us in this fight. Jamal was my world, and they took him from me. Thank you for listening.
I'm not expecting, never stop grinding, taking problems, pieces to change, and now I'm back in my groove. I put this all together and start calling it so true. We motivate, elevate, and let me stimulate your mind. Toast to the good ones who know.
We can't even say pause. This is too much for me. Because guess what? Life was never fair. Life never played fair. We all came around here today because everyone has a story. We may have lost our loved ones to the jails, to the penitentiary, to policing, to the hospitals, to the substance, to that pain, because pain talks so loud. Even when you are supporting someone that's going through that pain, pain knows pain. Remember that. So and those night terrors, they can actually be transferable. I learned that the hard way. And sometimes when you're having survivor's guilt, you are also carrying that pain. So please be kind to yourself.
Like the rain now, raining, sprinkle of road to see. Shines not blue, expanding everything in one day. to see. Like a castle built upon sandy, learn to sleep. Like a perfect flower that is just built new.